We gather, not as conquerors of lands, but as seekers of knowledge, to dissect the enigmatic civilization of the Etruscans. Their shadows loom large over our Roman heritage.
The Etruscans, a people whose lands sprawled from the Tiber to the Arno, mastered the art of living amidst the tumultuous currents of ancient Italy. Their timeline, a testament to resilience, predates the founding of my Rome and extends beyond.
Military interactions between our forebears and the Etruscans were not mere clashes of bronze and shield, but contests of wit and strategy. Romulus himself, myth or not, drew inspiration from Etruscan fortitude.
The divine intervention the Etruscans sought through their haruspices and augurs shaped not only their own destiny, but also laid the foundation stones for Christian Rome. Their religious practices, though arcane, were stepping stones towards the faith that would unify our empire under a single god.
Opulence and eccentricity, the twin pillars upon which Etruscan leaders often rested their heads. Their grandiosity was not mere vanity, but a reflection of power that commanded both respect and fear, much like myself.
But let us not forget the tapestry of Etruscan culture, its vibrant colors woven from the threads of their artistry, their elaborate tombs, their intricate jewelry, their potent symbols, all narrate a story of a people rich in culture and steeped in creativity.
Our discussions will no doubt unearth disagreements as we peel back the layers of Etruscan influence on our Roman civilization. Let us proceed with the awareness that in our quest for understanding, discord may arise. Yet it is through such contention that truth emerges.
Veritas indeed, but let us tread carefully, for the line between influence and usurpation is as thin as that which divides the conqueror from the conquered.
A fine point, but remember, gentlemen, it was through the subjugation of the Etruscan cities, Veii being prime among them, that Rome's dominion expanded. Through the lens of military conquest, one can discern much about both conqueror and the vanquished.
True, yet allow me to propose that it is not solely through conquest, but also through the absorption of Etruscan religious practices that Rome fortified its spiritual foundations, embedding a layer of divinity atop the might of our legions.
Luxuries and extravagances, the spoils of victory and the trappings of power were but reflections of the magnificence mirrored from those we subdued, or dare I say, enlightened.
Yet, amidst this talk of war and conquest, let us not neglect the beauty birthed by the Etruscans. Through their art they spoke, through their temples they immortalized themselves. In their opulence there was wisdom, a lesson in how to blaze brightly before the annals of history.
So it is set before us, a civilization rich in complexity and contradiction, much like our own. As we explore the depths of Etruscan influence, may our discourse shine a light on the obscured facets of their legacy. We now delve into the origins and migrations of the Etruscan civilization. Augustus, your insight on their strategic movements?
The Etruscans, a people shrouded in mystery, and yet their migrations into the Italian peninsula were anything but aimless. Through strategic settlements, they commanded the trade routes of the Tiber. Their choice of location speaks to an innate understanding of geography and power. Control the rivers, control the commerce.
And let's not overlook their military acumen. While the origins of their civilization are debated, their impact on Roman military strategy is undeniable. The Roman phalanx, a precursor to the manipular legion formation, shows clear Etruscan influence. Their tactics on the battlefield were not merely adopted but refined by Rome.
But who can ignore the allure of their mythological origins, tales of heroes, gods, and oracles? Their leaders didn't just rule, they captivated the imagination, weaving divine right into their authority.
Indeed, Caligula. Their mythology was not merely for entertainment. It was a tapestry that bound their society, a source of cultural richness that influenced not just the artistic expressions we adopted in Rome, but also our understanding of the divine.
Constantine, how do you perceive their contribution to navigation and exploration? Their voyages across the Tyrrhenian Sea are a testament to their pioneering spirit. Consider the Etruscan port cities. Their advanced understanding of naval architecture and their exploration efforts paved the way for Rome's later dominance of the Mediterranean. Their seafaring capabilities hint at a connection with the wider ancient world, far beyond the confines of Italic territories.
I must interject. For it is one thing to admire their naval prowess, yet one must question, to what end? Their expansions, while impressive, lacked the coherence and unity of Roman efforts. Their city-state mentality, though innovative, ultimately led to their downfall, as they could not unite against common foes.
A valid point, Augustus. However, their military and territorial interactions with early Rome provided a crucible for the Roman identity. Rome absorbed and adapted, turning Etruscan expertise into a foundation for empire.
And what of their origins? The theories range from autochthonous development to migrations from Anatolia or the Near East. Their origins, though murky, reflect the complexity of their civilization. Whether from the Lydians, as Herodotus claims, or born of the rich soil of Italy itself, their influence is undeniable. Their art, their gods, their very language speak of a people connected to a broader Mediterranean world, yet distinctly their own.
Regardless of where they hailed from, one cannot help but admire the sheer audacity of their leaders, to carve out a civilization amidst such mystery, and to imbue it with such splendor.
Their art and mythology speak to a civilization that, despite its eventual decline, understood the profundity of beauty and the divine, a legacy that Rome has been all the better for embracing.
An exhilarating discussion. The Etruscan roots of our civilization run deep, influencing our military, our religion, and our understanding of leadership and power. Let us carry forward this appreciation for their contributions as we navigate the remaining topics of our discussion. Let us now turn our discussion to the profound ways Etruscan religion and mythology have shaped Rome. Constantine, you've seen firsthand the incorporation of these practices into Christianity. Indeed, the rituals and gods of the Etruscans have offered a theological foundation that permitted a seamless transition to Christian practices. Martyrdom, a critical aspect of Christian faith, mirrors the Etruscan tradition of sacrificing for the divinitum.
Yet, let us not overlook the strategic incorporation of Etruscan divination. The art of haruspicy allowed us to interpret the will of the gods, a practice that has significantly influenced Roman statecraft and decision-making.
Julius, your thoughts on how these omens impacted military strategies?
The reliance on omens before battles, a tradition borrowed from the Etruscans, has often swayed the course of military engagements. Yet, this practice sometimes led to unnecessary hesitations. Determination and intellect should guide our strategies, not the flight of birds.
Extravagance in Etruscan religious ceremonies mirrors the opulence within which I, and indeed all of us, have indulged. The grandiose nature of their rites directly reflects the power and authority we wield.
And let us not forget the artistic expressions birthed from these elaborate ceremonies. The Etruscan influence on Roman art is undeniable. Their use of vivid colors, their mastery of bronze, it has inspired my pursuits in theater and music, enriching our culture and immortalizing their legacy.
Yet, it is through the assimilation of such practices that Rome has fortified its spiritual and temporal powers. The gods of the Etruscans now dwell within the pantheon of Christian saints.
A pragmatic approach indeed. Adopting Etruscan divination facilitated control, utilizing religion as a tool of governance. An art I perfected during my reign to consolidate the empire.
Pragmatism, yes, but at the cost of diluting the pure strength and valor our Roman ancestors esteemed. We must tread carefully not to lose our essence in the adoption of foreign practices.
It seems, then, that Etruscan religion and mythology serve as a double-edged sword, offering Rome both the tools for profound cultural integration and the peril of losing our distinct identity. Let us plunge into the heart of Etruscan architecture and engineering, and how these arts sowed the seeds for Rome's grandeur. Augustus, your reign saw a massive expansion in infrastructure. How do you judge the Etruscan influence there?
Rome's might rests not merely on the edge of a gladius, but on the foundations laid by Etruscan ingenuity. Their mastery in utilizing arches has not only shaped our aqueducts but fortified our ambitions. The Cloaca Maxima, an engineering marvel of drainage, stands as testament to their foresight. Our expansion was built, quite literally, on Etruscan soil.
But let us not forget the spiritual dimensions these architectural marvels convey. The Etruscans were pioneers in intertwining the divine with the mundane, an aspect my Constantinople owes much to. Their necropolises, echoing the cities of the living, whisper the eternal city concept, which I adopted and adapted.
And yet, the militaristic utility of their designs cannot be understated. The fortifications, the layout of their cities, each serves the purpose of defense and control. Their engineering was not just about edification, but about strategic dominance. The very walls that cradled their society provided the blueprint for the fortresses that protected the burgeoning Roman Empire. Ah, but your words paint only half the picture. The aesthetic imprints of Etruscan artistry on Roman culture, especially in public and private buildings, are undiminished. The frescoes, the sculptures that grace their temples and tombs, have inspired generations of Roman artists, including myself. Their use of vivid colors, their depiction of cloth and figures, brought to life the walls of our villas and palaces.
Your point stands, Nero. The Etruscan contribution is indeed twofold, blending the functional with the ornamental. Caligula, your views often diverge. What do you make of their architectural and engineering legacy?
Their grandeur was their downfall, lavish tombs and luxurious baths. Yet it is this opulence that seduced Rome, teaching us that magnificence and might go hand in hand. We Romans borrowed their styles not out of necessity, but out of desire for supremacy, for the Etruscans knew how to marry might with splendor.
It seems, then, that our forebears in Etruria gifted us with more than mere stones and mortar. They bequeathed us a paradigm that civilization is a monument built not just on the earth, but also in the minds of its people. Through Etruscan ingenuity, Rome learned to extend its reach not only across lands, but through the ages. Our discussion now veers towards the enigmatic Etruscan language. Its influence on Latin is indubitable, yet its complete unraveling remains a tantalum. Augustus, share your insights on administratively incorporating Etruscan lexicon into Latin.
Etruscan loanwords in Latin were not merely an act of linguistic assimilation, but a strategic move to consolidate our power. By embedding their terms into our administrative, religious, and civic life, we affirmed our dominance whilst preserving essential elements of Etruscan knowledge. This was pragmatism at its finest, utilitas combined with auctoritas.
On the battlefield, understanding and assimilating the tongues of those you seek to conquer is crucial. It gives you insight into their minds, strategies, and vulnerabilities. The Etruscan language, complex and yet so vital, offered a strategic advantage, allowing us to dismantle their resistance from within.
The religious weight carried by the Etruscan language cannot be overstressed. By incorporating their religious terminology into early Christian practices, we forged a bridge for the pagan worshippers towards the new faith. It wasn't merely linguistic assimilation, it was a spiritual conquest.
Ah, but let us not forget the beauty, the sheer poetic elegance of the Etruscan language. Its loss is a cultural tragedy, akin to the destruction of a magnificent opus. The lyrical quality of their words, the depth of their expressions, Rome absorbed much, yet much was lost in the flames of time.
And therein lies the perplexity and the marvel. The Etruscan language acts as a mirror, reflecting the sophistication of their society and their indelible mark upon our own. Yet, as we delved into their lexicon, did we perhaps dilute the potency of our own tongue? Or did we, in fact, enrich it?
Dilute? Hardly. Language, like power, evolves by subsuming the lesser. The Etruscan contributions to Latin were akin to adding spoils of war to the treasury. Their words, their concepts added layers of meaning and complexity to our own, making it not just richer, but mightier.
An interesting perspective, Caligula. It seems our incorporation of the Etruscan tongue was both a tactical maneuver and a cultural conquest, enhancing our understanding, governance, and even our spiritual lexicon. Our language, our culture, became a crucible for transformation, melding Etruscan intricacies with the robustness of Latin. Let us delve into the political structure and governance of the Etruscans compared to Rome. Augustus, would you commence our discourse?
Indeed, Marcus. The Etruscans thrived on a city-state model, each under a lucumon, not dissimilar to our early Roman kings. Yet, they lacked our penchant for unity under law. The Roman model centralized power, creating a singular Roman identity that the Etruscans never achieved.
Ah, But you oversimplify, Augustus. The Etruscans' influence was not so meek. Their confederation, though loose, prefigured the Roman federation of allies. Their governance model held sway over Rome itself in the regal period. Romulus himself, perhaps, wore the toga picta at his triumphs, an Etruscan adornment.
Child's play, both of you. Etruscan monarchs indulged in eccentricities that would dwarf even my exploits. They feasted while Rome hungered. Their opulence knew no bounds. Is it any wonder that their rule inspired revulsion and ultimately emulation in Rome's own path to despotism?
Your points meander from the truth. Etruscan religiosity infused their governance. The Romans, imitators they were, adopted not just their gods but also their religious kingship. The very concept of Rome's divinely sanctioned rule stems from these early precedents. My foundation of Constantinople was far removed from such pagan practices, embracing the true faith. Yet the essence of governance as a divine mandate persisted.
Julius, you seem poised to rebut.
Indeed, Marcus. While Constantine romanticizes, Rome's absorption of Etruscan lands was a testament to our superior model of governance. Our Senate, our legions, our laws, all were structures that the Etruscans, for all their sophistication, could not match. Rome's conquest of Etruria was inevitable. Their fragmentation was their downfall. But you ignore the cultural governance, the symphony of the Etruscan spirit that played on in our theaters, our temples, even in our governance. Was it not the Etruscan haruspices who advised our Senate, who interpreted the will of the gods? Their diviners walked our halls of power long after their kings were but a memory.
Spirits and symphonies, Nero. You prattle about the arts when we discuss the iron grip of rule. Etruscan leaders were but the prelude to Rome's greatest, myself included. Our very eccentricities, decried by some, defined the absolute authority that governance demands.
So we see that the political structures, though divergent, wove a complex tapestry of influence, from ceremonial robes to the very concept of divine rule that shaped the governance of Rome. It is clear that while Rome may have surpassed Etruria in might and extent, the lessons of Etruscan governance imbued Rome with a richer, more complex identity.
Wise as always, Marcus. Yet let us not forget the ultimate testament of Roman governance, the transformation from monarchy through republic to empire. Each phase eclipsed the Etruscans, absorbing, then surpassing them. Victrix causa Deis placuit sed victa Catoni.
Well then, it appears that our discourse traversed the spectrum of governance from the divinity of kings to the pragmatism of empire. Each of you has presented a facet of this complex interplay between Etruscan and Roman rule, illustrating that the strength of Rome was not just in conquest, but in its ability to assimilate and evolve. Let us carry this understanding forward as we venture into our next discussion. We now turn our attention to military tactics and achievements. The art of war, as practiced by the Etruscans, left an indelible mark on Roman military strategy. Julius, your campaigns have often been lauded for their innovation. Could it be that you owe a debt to the Etruscan way of warfare?
Indeed, Marcus. The Etruscans were not merely enemies to be vanquished. They were masters of the battlefield from whom much could be learned. Their phalanx formations, though eventually overshadowed by the manipular formations of the Roman legions, provided a foundation upon which Rome's military might was built. Yet one must not mistake acknowledgement for indebtedness. Rome's ascension was due to our ability to adapt and evolve, a principle the Etruscans themselves could not uphold.
I find your emphasis on adaptation most apt, Julius. However, let us not forget the strategic integration of Etruscan soldiers into our legions. Their valor and expertise were instrumental in our conquests. The absorption of Etruscan military elite into Roman ranks was a pragmatic approach that ensured our legions were second to none.
Valor and expertise, perhaps in revelry and opulence. While their contributions to military attire have lent a certain flamboyance to our parades, one wonders if the spirit of Mars was not diluted amidst all the pomp and spectacle.
Caligula, you jest, but there is a grain of truth in your words. The religious aspects of warfare, the ceremonies and sacrifices, these were areas where Etruscan influence pervaded. They fought as they lived, with an eye to the heavens, believing their fate in battle was preordained by divine will. This melding of martial and religious life has indeed shaped how we perceive the divine's role in victory or defeat.
A salient point, Constantine. The gods did not merely observe the carnage, but were thought to actively partake in the vicissitudes of war. Julius, do you not agree that such beliefs could sway the morale of an army?
Morale, yes, but let us not veer into superstition. The strength of an army lies in its discipline, its training, and its leadership. Relying on omen's importance, as the Etruscans did, can be capricious. Mars favors the bold, not the superstitious. And yet, was it not this very capriciousness, this rich tapestry of culture and religion, that infused Etruscan military proceedings with a vibrancy lacking in our own? Their ceremonies, their attire, while perhaps seen as flamboyant through Caligula's eyes, were manifestations of a deeply artistic people expressing their valor and fears through the medium of war.
Nero, your penchant for the dramatic aside, it is undeniable that the Etruscan impact on Roman military architecture, strategy, and indeed our very character runs deep. Our discussion here only scratches the surface of their foundational influence on the Roman art of war.
As we consider these accounts, it becomes increasingly clear that the legacy of Etruscan warfare is not merely an artifact to be studied, but a cornerstone of Roman military heritage. Their spirit endures in our legions, in our strategies, and in our victories. Our discussion here acknowledges that legacy, even as we chart our own course to glory.
Indeed, Marcus, may our enemies tremble at the thought.
Let us delve into the Etruscan influence on Roman art and symbolism. Nero, your reign was marked by extravagant public works and spectacles. How do you perceive the Etruscan aesthetic in your projects?
The grandiosity of Etruscan artistry, with its vibrant colors and bold forms, inspired not only my theaters but the very essence of Roman celebration. Their funerary paintings, while somber, carried a vivacity that I sought to emulate in life. Maximus in vita, non solum in morte.
Vivacity? You mean their grotesque opulence, a trait you seem to admire excessively. Etruscan art was a reflection of their indulgent leadership, which, much like your own Nero, was all for show, lacking true military and civic virtue.
Yet, Caligula, do not underestimate the strategic use of such symbols. The Etruscans utilized art not merely for display, but as a means of unifying their society and legitimizing their rule. In this, I found inspiration for cultivating the imagery of the Pax Romana, an empire united under the semblance of peace and prosperity, even if wrought through conquest.
Both of you touch upon critical points, yet overlook the martial influence in their art. The Etruscans celebrated their military achievements with the same fervor as their religious rites. It is in the balance of these representations that I appreciated the Etruscan contribution to Roman identity, establishing dominion not only through sword, but also through the spiritual.
Julius, while your appreciation for their military depictions is noteworthy, the true marvel lies in how their religious iconography evolved under the Etruscans. Their gods, once figures of mystery, became integral in guiding the moral compass of Rome. It was this spiritual inheritance that paved the way for Christianity's acceptance in the Roman Empire. Their iconography adapted to embody Christian virtues.
An insightful observation, Constantine. The transformation of pagan symbols into Christian ones indeed underscores the profound impact of Etruscan symbolism. It reveals a culture deeply intertwined with the divine, where art and ritual seamlessly merged.
Exactly, Marcus. And it was this seamless integration of the divine within the everyday that I aimed to revive through my public works, an attempt to capture the sublime essence of the Etruscans, though perhaps misunderstood by those with less refined tastes.
Misunderstood or not, Nero, your methods were as decadent as those of our Etruscan predecessors. A fine line exists between inspiration and excess, a line both of you seem to have crossed with enthusiastic abandon.
The debate on excess aside, the crux of the matter is how we as Romans have woven the Etruscan legacy into our own tapestry of civilization. Through their art and symbols, we inherited a language of power and unity, a testament to their enduring influence on our empire.
Indeed, Augustus, our discussion reveals the complexity of Etruscan art and symbolism, a testament to a civilization that, while absorbed by Rome, left an indelible mark on the fabric of our culture. Their artistic legacy, enriched by our own contributions, stands as a monument to the intertwined destinies of Rome and Etrusca. Economic interaction between Romans and Etruscans was a cornerstone of our development. Augustus, how did Rome integrate Etruscan resources into its burgeoning empire?
Rome, in her wisdom, saw the value in Etruscan metallurgy and agricultural techniques. By incorporating these resources, we fortified our economy and expanded our reach. It's not solely about conquest, but the strategic symbiosis of resources.
Constantine, the paths carved by Etruscans laid foundations for trade routes in your era. How did this old wisdom guide your expansion?
Indeed, the Etruscans were pioneers. Their roads and seaways charted courses we later embraced, spreading the gospel and commerce alike. These ancient routes were divine providence, guiding the empire's spiritual and economic expansion.
Yet, let's not forget, these trade routes were arteries of power, veins through which the lifeblood of an empire flows. Our military prowess ensured their expansion and security, bringing wealth to Rome. The Etruscans provided a map, we extended its borders.
Julius, the militaristic angle is well noted. Nero, the Etruscans introduced luxury goods into Rome, influencing our arts and lifestyle. Share your thoughts on this extravagance.
The Etruscan influence on our culture was irrefutable. Their luxury seduced Rome, bringing with it a sophistication unseen. Their art, their music, even their attire enriched the Roman aesthetic. We owe much to their opulence, a testament to our shared history.
But Nero, luxury is but a double-edged sword. It was the Etruscan flamboyance that I adored, yet in excess it leads to decadence. Rome absorbed not only their wealth but their penchant for excess. Moderation was a lesson unlearned.
Caligula raises a poignant issue. The balance between enrichment and excess is delicate. Augustus, how did you ensure economic strategies didn't lead to downfall?
Pragmatism over pleasure, Marcus. Integration of Etruscan resources catalyzed our infrastructure projects and military campaigns. Each decision weighed against the potential for decadence. Rome's strength grew from disciplined resource management, not mere accumulation of wealth.
It appears, then, that our engagement with Etruscan economic models was as much about embracing their strengths as it was about navigating their pitfalls. This discourse reveals the layered interactions of cultures, economies, and military strategies, shaping the Rome we forged. Let us turn our focus to a subject that commands great importance: the role of Etruscan women in society and their contrasts with Roman counterparts. Augustus, commence this discourse with your insights.
Inherently, the Etruscan societies granted women a freedom unseen in our Roman constructs. They dined with men, attended sports, and possessed political influence. This liberation, while admirable, diverged from Roman principles of mos maiorum, the ancestral custom where women played more traditional roles.
Indeed, Augustus. But remember, strategic marriages in Rome also served as pivotal alliances, much like the Etruscans. However, while they celebrated the matriarchal influence, we Romans utilized marriages to fortify familial ties and political alliances. The distinction in intent and execution between our cultures remains quite stark.
The progression from paganism to Christianity under my reign redefined the role of women yet again, introducing the concept of sanctitas within domestic confines. The Etruscan women, in their time, held religious roles that now, under Christian Rome, are expressed through sanctity and reverence, albeit within a more constrained societal structure.
Women attending banquets and enjoying liberties does indeed paint the Etruscans as indulgent. Rome, under my reign, embraced certain freedoms, but always under the guise of control and power. The eccentricity of women's roles in Etruscan society would have been a spectacle under the Roman eye, one that I might have relished for its sheer unorthodoxy.
And let us not forget the arts, where Etruscan women contributed significantly. This cultural richness contrasts with Roman women, whose contributions, while present, were often overshadowed by the prevailing male dominance in our society's artistic and historical records.
It appears, then, that Etruscan women enjoyed freedoms and roles that were considerably distinctive from those in Roman society. Our reflections on this divergence not only speak to shifts in societal norms, but also to the underlying currents of power, religion, and culture that shaped the very framework of ancient life. Let us ponder, how does this understanding of the past inform our present?
By acknowledging the differences and similarities, we glean insights into the evolution of societal structures, perhaps cautioning against the rigidity of roles based on gender.
As we strategize and navigate the governance of peoples, recognizing the value of all members of society, irrespective of gender, must be paramount. Our empire's strength was built on diversity and integration, not just conquering.
Veritas. The integration of diverse cultural practices also includes recognizing the impactful roles of women in society, learning from both the freedoms Etruscans afforded them and the constraints we imposed. This blend could have furthered the longevity and resilience of our society.
While nostalgia for the opulence and liberty of past cultures enchants, one must not forget the chaos it brought. There's splendor in freedom, but also a need for the structure Rome provided.
In the arts and in culture, women's contributions are timeless, carrying the essence of civilizations forward. Etruscan women, with their unique roles, and even Roman women, in their subtlety, shape the narrative of history profoundly.
Our dialogue reflects the intricate dynamics of gender roles across civilizations. The evolution from Etruscan to Roman societies offers us a mirror, showing the shifts in power, culture, and the placement of women in the wide mosaic of history. As we continue to draw lessons from the ancients, we must appreciate the complexity and diversity of each role in shaping the course of humanity. The decline of the Etruscans, a civilization once mighty, provides us with invaluable lessons. Let us ponder on their fate and what it foretells for our Rome. Augustus, your thoughts on administrative strategies to prevent Etruscan-like downfalls?
The Etruscans, in their complacency, failed to adapt to the evolving world around them. Their city-state approach, while once effective, lacked the unity necessary for lasting dominance. Rome's centralization of power and emphasis on legalism ensure that the errors of the Etruscans are not repeated. Our administrative reforms, particularly those enhancing the vigor of our legions and the efficiency of our bureaucracy, are designed to galvanize the empire against similar threats.
Military adaptability, that's where our focus should lie. The Etruscans underestimated the importance of evolving their military strategies in the face of new enemies. We, however, have embraced innovation on the battlefield. From the Marian reforms to our strategies during the Gallic Wars, we've demonstrated the vitality of adaptability. Their fall underscores the necessity of perpetual military evolution to face the unforeseen.
Interesting, Julius. It seems adaptability is not solely military, but should also be philosophical, reflecting on our empire's ethos. Constantine, the religious transition from paganism to Christianity, marks a significant shift in governance. How does this relate to the lessons learnt from the Etruscan decline?
The true power of an empire lies not just in its armies or its laws, but in the hearts and souls of its people. The Etruscans, with their profound religious life, failed because they could not provide the spiritual unity demanded by new epochs. Christianity, however, offers Rome a cohesive moral framework that transcends individual city-states or cultures. It is this spiritual unification, this shared faith, that guards us against the disintegration faced by the Etruscans.
Ha! Spiritual unity? The Etruscans reveled in their opulence, and so did Rome under my reign. Their decline wasn't due to a lack of spiritual unity, but because they were overtaken by a more cunning and ambitious people, us. We must always be prepared to defend our extravagance and power, not shy away from it. Their decline is a lesson in what happens when one becomes complacent in their strength and decadence.
Yet it is the cultural and artistic expressions of the Etruscans that truly immortalize them, much like the grandeur of my projects in Rome. Our empire mustn't forget that arts, culture, and public spectacle bind the masses more firmly than the fear of military might or the abstract promises of a religion. The Etruscans taught us that the splendor of civilization must be maintained to inspire and control.
Each perspective here reflects a facet of the complex mosaic that is empire. From military innovation and centralized governance to spiritual unity, from the caution against complacency to the binding power of culture, each view offers insight into how to sustain our great Rome. The Etruscans may have faded, but in learning from their decline, we carve a path towards an ever-enduring empire. Let us take these lessons to heart and ensure that Rome, unlike the Etruscans, remains eternal. We now conclude our vigorous dialogue on the Etruscans, their indelible mark upon our Roman heritage, spanning facets from military tactics to cultural treasures. Each of you, from your unique vantage, offer your parting reflections. Augustus, let us commence with you.
The Etruscans, through strategic acumen and innovation, gave us a precedent for empire building. Their decline, fraught with lessons on the volatility of power and the necessity of adaptability, serves as a stern monitum for Rome. We absorbed, we adapted, but we must remain vigilant, lest the same fate befall us. Our forebears' trials and errors have paved the Via Romana to greatness.
Indeed, the military genius of the Etruscan leagues, their formations, their valor in fields long vanished, all were stepping stones for the legions of Rome. Yet it was their inability to evolve against the tide of inevitability that spelled their downfall. Vincere est vivere. To win is to live. Rome must learn, adapt, and above all conquer, or be relegated to the footnotes of history, like those who came before us.
In the spiritual domain, the Etruscan divinities laid the foundations for Rome's religious syncretism, allowing the seamless transition to Christianity under my reign. Their pantheon, replete with gods both majestic and dread, was absorbed, transformed, and transcended as Rome sought not merely earthly, but celestial dominion. Their religious practices, once the solace of their hearts, now serve a higher, universal call.
Ah, but the excesses, the sheer, unadulterated vivacity of the Etruscan spirit, in their revelries, in their sumptuous banquets, and their power wielded with the capriciousness of Jove himself, there was life unbridled. Rome, in its stoic veneer, often forgets the vitality of excess. We stand perhaps on the precipice of forgetting what it means to truly live as they did. Lux in tenebris lucet, and yet we cast aside the light for shadows.
Art, the breath of civilization, the soul's expression, was where the Etruscans excelled and left their most enduring legacy. Their tombs, those windows into eternity, speak of a people who loved, desired, and aspired. In their pottery, their sculptures, we see reflections of ourselves, or perhaps what we yearn to be. Rome has inherited this mantle, and it is incumbent upon us to carry it forward, to ensure that the beauty and profundity of life are never forgotten.
The Etruscans, our predecessors, our teachers in many respects, have afforded us a vista from which to gaze upon our past and envision our future. Their tales, while echoing with the mortality of their empire, imbue us with the wisdom to forge ahead, to build a civilization that can withstand the vicissitudes of time. Omnia mors equat, yet our legacy, inspired and informed by the Etruscan ethos, can indeed transcend the finality of death.
Sic transit gloria mundi, yet let us not allow the glory of the world to pass in vain. Let the Etruscans remind us of our mortal coil and the imperatives of state, strategy, and civilization.
To the might of Rome, may it learn, prevail, and endure, far beyond the confines of history, as a testament to those who laid the stones upon which we tread.
And let faith, the cornerstone of the empire's spirit, guide us beyond conquests of land to the conquests of hearts and souls.
Etruscan opulence and life's ephemeral pleasures remind us to seize the day, for tomorrow is never promised.
And through the arts, let us immortalize our essence, ensuring that long after our empire fades, the story of Rome, inspired by the Etruscans, endures.
Thus we draw our discussion to a close. Let the memory of the Etruscans serve as both warning and inspiration, as we, the stewards of Rome's destiny, look to the horizon. Ave atque valle, to those shadows of the past, as we stride forth into the light of the future.